The Subcommittee on Oversight will come to order. I note that a quorum is present. Without objection, the chair may declare a recess at any time. Also, without objection, the meeting record will remain open for 5 legislative days, so members may submit any materials they wish to be included therein. Today we have Congressman Brian Mast joining us, and he has waived on to the subcommittee to participate in today's hearing. He will arrive a little later. As a former Army explosive ordnance disposal technician, Congressman Mast is well positioned to expose any failures of the January 6th device responses that we will analyze today. I appreciate having him here, and we look forward to his discussion. Thank you, Ranking Member Torres, members of the subcommittee, and our witnesses for joining us at today's oversight hearing. January 6, 2021 was an incredibly dark day for our country. Our Capitol was overrun, and some individuals assaulted the U.S. Capitol police officers, and they breached our halls. Additionally, explosive devices were placed at the DNC and the RNC, threatening our security. Today, we will focus on identifying the numerous security failures that proceeded and continue to persist following the discovery of 2 explosive devices near the U.S. Capitol complex on January 6, 2021. Although it has been more than 3 years, we still have many unanswered questions. According to the FBI, there are still no suspects as to who planted the devices found near the RNC and the DNC. I know I share many people's concerns that there has been no update in their investigation. Additionally, the January 6th Select Committee, which was meant to dive into the failures and investigations of January 6th, completely neglected to investigate the devices. Despite former Speaker Nancy Pelosi and House Democrats spending millions of dollars in their 2 years of the Select Committee, their investigation into the pipe bomb was basically non-existent. Their 845-page final report only referred to the pipe bomb 5 times. These references are situational, and as far as I can tell, no investigation was conducted. In contrast, the term President Trump is mentioned in the report 1,901 times. I refuse to follow in the Select Committee's footsteps and conduct a partisan biased investigation. There were genuine and regrettable security failures on January 6. The response to the devices was one of the most alarming. Here are the facts. At approximately 12:42 p.m., the United States Capitol Police received reports of an explosive device found next to the RNC. At roughly 1:05 p.m., a second device was discovered at the DNC, while Vice President-elect Kamala Harris was inside the building. The Vice President-elect came within feet of the device, which, if detonated, could have caused serious bodily harm. CCTV footage indicates the devices were planted the night before by an individual carrying a backpack and wearing a gray hooded sweatshirt, a mask, gloves, glasses, and a pair of Nike Air Max Speed Turf sneakers. Despite the suspect's appearance on numerous U.S. Capitol Police CCTV cameras and the FBI's efforts interviewing over 800 individuals and assessing more than 300 tips, the suspect still remains at large. Unfortunately, the FBI has failed to provide substantive updates on the investigation despite numerous requests from congressional committees. Today, they have declined to participate in our hearing. We are joined by several experts today who will help shed light on the device's response, including U.S. Capitol Police Assistant Chief Sean Gallagher. On January 6, 2021, Assistant Chief Gallagher directed a counter-surveillance team to the DNC following the discovery of device at the RNC. While today we will spend time analyzing the discrepancies of the device's response, ultimately this hearing is meant to help us all move forward. I look forward to your testimony, Assistant Chief Gallagher, and to working together so we can ensure shortcomings of this nature do not happen again. I salute and applaud the U.S. Capitol Police officers who, day in and day out, devote their lives to protecting the members and the halls of Congress and the thousands of visitors who are here every day. We have a lot to dive into this morning, and I now recognize the Ranking Member, Ms. Torres, for 5 minutes for the purpose of providing an opening statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I too join you in welcoming our witnesses to our hearing. Thank you for your many years of service to our communities. I understand how important and dangerous your jobs truly are, especially when forced to protect us from those who choose to use bombs instead of the ballots to achieve their ends. I also know from many years working as a 911 dispatcher that it is usually premature to assess the law enforcement response to a criminal act while a federal investigation is still active and ongoing. And I am sure that my colleagues on the other side of the aisle know this, which leads me to wonder, what exactly is it that we're doing here this morning? Maybe it is to peddle crazy right-wing conspiracy theories about the January 6th pipe bombs spreading in the dark corners of the internet. Or maybe we are here so this subcommittee can, once again, try to muddle our history, villainize law enforcement, and undo the efforts of the bipartisan January 6th Select Committee, all to distract from the simple fact that the former president and Republican nominee for president orchestrated a corrupt scheme to overturn the results of a free and fair election. When that didn't work, he summoned an armed mob, riled them up, and dispatched them to the Capitol, endangering the lives of everyone working here that day, including members of Congress, not to mention putting at risk the lives of the outgoing and the incoming vice president. I was in the House gallery when the Capitol was breached. It is imperative that all who committed criminal acts that day be held accountable for their actions, including and especially whoever placed pipe bombs at the DNC and RNC. Yet, we must remember that this isn't an episode of CSI or Law and Order. We don't get to write our own ending according to what may or may not be convenient for our politics. It's frustrating, and I agree 100%, but all critical and sensitive investigations take time. Experts are tasked with not only solving a crime, but also identifying potential characteristics to prevent future threats. From the church bombings that terrorized Black communities throughout the civil rights movement to the bombing in Oklahoma City, federal law enforcement agencies has always had to work tirelessly, sometimes for years and decades, to put together the pieces needed to fully investigate, identify, and prosecute domestic violent terrorists like whomever placed these bombs. FBI Director Christopher Wray testified before the January committee, the Judiciary Committee last year, that his agents reviewed 40,000 video files and assessed more than 500 tips. Law enforcement has spent thousands of man-hours investigating this crime, and I have faith that they'll continue to do so until the perpetrator is brought to justice. And while my colleagues on the other side of the aisle and I disagree on some things, I hope that we can acknowledge and respect the vital work that law enforcement, including federal law enforcement, does on our behalf. Just last week, House Republicans included cuts to DOJ, the FBI, and the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, ATF, programs in their appropriations bills for fiscal year 2024. If they were serious about this investigation and supported law enforcement efforts, then they wouldn't have cut critical funding for federal law enforcement needed to solve these crimes and others. This committee should not be used as a platform to feed into internet conspiracy theorists. Rather, I look forward to discussing and learning more about the responsibilities and complexities of the important work that the FBI and its partners are engaged in from our witnesses. Thank you once again for taking the time to testify at this hearing, and I yield back.
Now recognize the full committee ranking member, Mr. Morelli, for 5 minutes for the purpose of providing an opening statement.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and thanks to our witnesses for joining us this morning, and thank you for your long service. And thanks to all the brave men and women of the Capitol Police, the FBI, and other law enforcement for the work they do each and every day to keep the American people safe, which is no easy task, but we're very grateful nonetheless. I must admit I'm perplexed as to why we're here for a public hearing on an active and ongoing federal criminal investigation, especially one in which the FBI has repeatedly told Congress, including members of this subcommittee, that discussing an ongoing investigation would undermine its integrity and make it more difficult to catch the perpetrator. I have to wonder aloud whether that's the goal, to undermine the integrity of an ongoing investigation. I certainly hope not. But here we are. So while I'm not quite sure what the precise goal of this hearing is, I sincerely hope it is treated with the seriousness it deserves, and that's not used as a platform to spread conspiracy theories about the FBI and the United States Capitol Police. Throughout this Congress, prominent House Republicans have called to defund agencies like the FBI and the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and Explosives. In fact, at least one House Republican sells T-shirts on their website that say, "Defund the FBI." I must point out the irony of my friends on the other side of the aisle repeatedly criticizing the pace of this FBI investigation while at the same time proudly attempting to defund the FBI, ATF, and other agencies leading the inquiry. How does it make any sense to criticize the pace of an investigation or the resources allocated to it while simultaneously taking those resources away? I'm not the only one confused. The executive director of the National Fraternal Order of Police summed it up well. To say you support law enforcement and then withhold funding for law enforcement is at variance with common sense, end quote. And it's not just the funding. This entire Congress, House Republicans, have echoed the former president's bizarre accusations that the FBI has been weaponized against the American people and that it cannot be trusted. In fact, before technical difficulties prevented the majority on this subcommittee from doing so, the current Speaker admitted that his allies on the subcommittee were blurring faces of rioters in the January 6th footage they released over Capitol Police objections because, quote, "we don't want them to be retaliated against and to be charged by the Department of Justice." Imagine that. People who might have broken the law, we don't want to have them retaliated against or to be charged for crimes they may have committed. As I'm sure our witnesses can attest, law enforcement relies heavily on the cooperation of members of the public to perform effective investigations. All leveling these baseless accusations against the FBI does is discourage witnesses and members of the public who may be helpful and have information from cooperating. Don't get me wrong, it's key that the individuals who placed the pipe bombs at the DNC and RNC ahead of the January 6th attack be caught and prosecuted. And while I appreciate the majority's interest, I'm not sure how this hearing will help advance that goal or what the committee and House administration could possibly do legislatively to speed up an active FBI investigation. Again, I thank the witnesses for being here, for your service, for your willingness to answer questions. I'm actually looking forward to your testimony. With that, Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Gentleman yields. This hearing is to review the handling of two serious incidents that affects the safety and security of Republicans and Democrats and visitors to this city. I was sure that this could and really should be a bipartisan hearing, and I hope that it will be. The FBI has been investigating this for 3 years. This hearing is not about the FBI nor its investigation. It's about the response and the process of responding to 3 very dangerous devices that provide an imminent risk to people here at the Capitol. The FBI was invited to be here today, but they declined. But I believe we've assembled an impressive panel of experts that can help us break down the response. This hearing, this is not about the FBI investigation, but this is about something that this committee does have oversight of, which is the U.S. Capitol Police and law enforcement that do respond and how they respond to incidents like this. Without objection, all other members' opening statements will be made part of the hearing, and they are submitted, if they are submitted to the committee clerk by 5 p.m. today. Pursuant to paragraph B, Committee Rule 6, the witnesses will please stand and raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony that you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Let the record show that the witnesses answered in the affirmative. You may be seated, and thank you all. I will now introduce our witnesses. Our first witness is U.S. Capitol Police Assistant Chief for Uniformed Operations, Mr. Sean Gallagher. Thank you for your long-term service to the U.S. Capitol Police and the members here. Assistant Chief Gallagher joined the Capitol Police in 2001, and on January 6, 2021, was Deputy Chief for Protective Services Bureau. We're grateful that you are here today, Assistant Chief Gallagher, and we look forward to hearing your perspective regarding the law enforcement response and how we can improve in the future. Our next witness is Mr. Sean Dennis, the co-founder, president, and CEO of the U.S. Bomb Technician Association. Mr. Dennis formerly served as the Bomb Squad Commander and Special Operations Sergeant for the Arapahoe County Sheriff's Office in Centennial, Colorado. I hope I got that name pronounced correctly. Mr. Dennis has been involved in the bomb technician and explosives community for a quarter century, over 25 years. Our next witness is Mr. Michael Keim, a former Washington Metropolitan Area Transit Authority head, K-9 detection trainer. Did I get that right? Close enough, huh? Mr. Keim has spent over 12 years as an explosive and K-9 trainer and handler and has supervised thousands of sweeps for explosive devices. Since the U.S. Secret Service, who supervised the security sweep at the DNC, was not available to testify before the subcommittee today, we are looking forward to hearing Mr. Keim's perspective on the K-9 security sweep of the DNC, what went right, and what possibly may have gone wrong. Our final witness is Mr. Barry Black, a big fan of your first name, by the way. I just want to share. He is a former FBI special agent and master bomb technician. Mr. Black was a first responder to the 1995 Oklahoma City bombing, 1996 Atlanta Olympic bombing, and the 9/11 World Trade Center attacks, among others. In 2022, Mr. Black was awarded as an honorary U.S. Air Force commander for his work with security forces and military working dogs. As I said, we have a very impressive panel of experts that I think can help navigate us here today. We appreciate the witnesses being here today and look forward to your testimony. As a reminder, we have read your written statements and it will appear in the full hearing record. Under Committee Rule 9, you are to limit your oral presentation to a brief summary of your written statement unless I extend the time period in consultation with Ranking Member Torres. Please remember to turn on your microphones using the button in front of you so that members can hear. If you don't, I will very politely remind you to turn your microphone on. When you begin to speak, the light on the timer in front of you will turn green. After 4 minutes, it will turn yellow. And when the red light comes on, your 5 minutes has expired. You don't have to stop mid-sentence, but we would ask that you please wrap up your statements once that red light has illuminated. I now recognize Assistant Chief Gallagher for 5 minutes.
Good morning, Chairman Loudermilk, Ranking Member Torres, and members of the committee. Thank you for the invitation to testify today about the January 6 pipe bombs. The Department greatly appreciates the committee's continued support of the men and women of the U.S. Capitol Police who courageously carry out their duties of protecting the members of Congress, staff, visitors, and the entire Capitol complex and legislative process each and every day. Congress's support has been invaluable as we continue to work on building on the lessons learned from January 6th, while also meeting the dramatic workload increases in increasing volatile threat environment. As you know, the United States Capitol Police is a unique federal law enforcement agency. We patrol a campus that is completely open. The public has a constitutional right to visit, protest, and petition their representatives on Capitol grounds. And our officers and civilians work 24/7 to keep you safe, whether you're here on Capitol Hill or when you travel to your home districts. Our mission is vast and our responsibilities have expanded immensely over the years. The threat picture has morphed from securing our buildings to the threat of a 9/11 scenario, to the lone offender, and now to an unprecedented increase in threats to members and their families. On January 6, 2021, however, that safety was threatened in a number of ways, including the placement of 2 pipe bombs, one in an alley behind the Capitol Hill Club on Capitol grounds, which is adjacent to the Republican National Committee, and one at the Democratic National Committee, which is just off Capitol grounds. I'd like to walk through the events of that day with regards to the pipe bombs, and then I'd be happy to answer any questions that the committee may have. On January 6, 2021, I was in charge of our Protective Services Bureau as a deputy chief. Our Protective Services Bureau is our Dignitary Protection Division, our IICD, and our Investigation Division. On January 6th, at approximately 12:44, one of our uniformed officers was notified by Republican National Committee security that there appeared to be a pipe bomb located at the rear of the Capitol Hill Club in an alley. A command post was established by 12:49, and the device was located during a search of the area. Around the same time, one of our K-9 technicians identified a pickup truck parked directly across the street from the RNC with a weapon in plain view and the truck appearing to be weighed down. This pickup truck was parked directly across the street from the RNC, and assets from our department's hazardous device section, more commonly known as our bomb squad, responded and began to assess the device at approximately 12:52. The pipe bomb was eventually disrupted by our bomb squad and cleared at approximately 3 p.m. The earlier pickup truck that I mentioned that our K-9 technician located was declared suspicious, and members of our bomb squad then began to assess that vehicle at approximately 3:25. This vehicle was found to contain 11 Molotov cocktails, smokeless powder canisters, OC spray, canisters full of ammunition, a rifle, a shotgun, a handgun, multiple machetes, and a crossbow. The owner of that vehicle was later identified, arrested, and is ultimately serving 47 months in federal prison. The overall scene at the RNC was cleared at approximately 6:30 p.m. As a result of the discovery of the pipe bomb at the RNC, members of our department's counter-surveillance unit, as they have been trained to do, began to push out and search for other locations for either suspicious packages, suspicious people, or similar devices. At approximately 1 p.m., the department requested Metro Transit to have trains bypass the Capitol South Metro due to the presence of the pipe bomb. At 1:07 p.m., approximately 23 minutes after the Capitol Police was alerted of the pipe bomb at the RNC, 2 of our counter-surveillance agents located what appeared to be a similar pipe bomb underneath a bench in front of the DNC. The Cannon House office building was evacuated at about 1:11 p.m., and officers immediately began to clear residences and businesses in the area. The scene at the DNC was cleared at approximately 4:36 after our bomb squad disrupted and cleared the pipe bombs. The FBI then took possession of both devices and all evidence and is the lead agency on the entire investigation. It is my understanding that both of these devices were fully functional and viable pipe bombs. However, it is unclear whether they would have gone off on their own had they not been rendered safe by our bomb squad. As I noted earlier, our bomb squad successfully handled an extremely dangerous situation on January 6th, but since that date, we have determined additional improvements are necessary. Thus, the department has continued to seek ways to improve our operations, overhauling many of our policies, processes, and implementing numerous changes related to civil disturbance unit, intelligence gathering, operational planning, training and equipment, incident command, and internal communications, as well as a host of other areas. Since January 6th, our bomb squad technicians have begun receiving specialized advanced training from the ATF's Certified Explosive Specialist Program, and the department has a bomb technician training with an elite FBI team, which is one of only 14 such teams in the country now. Our bomb squad is also participating in the Raven Challenge, which includes numerous public safety squads and military EOD teams performing realistic operational scenarios. Our bomb squad remains one of the largest and one of the most capable squads in the entire country, and the changes noted above will ensure that the department is even better prepared to respond to any similar incidents. Finally, I want to make sure that I note, and this is important, I am extremely proud that none of these 2 pipe bombs, nor any of the Molotov cocktails found that day, exploded or harmed anybody. This is without a doubt directly due to the outstanding efforts of not only our bomb squad, but other members of the U.S. Capitol Police. We now know, based on video surveillance, that both of these devices have been were placed the night before on January 5th, 2021. While there is vague footage of the suspect, to date, nobody has been arrested for the offense despite a $500,000 reward by the FBI and many hours of hard work by the FBI and other law enforcement agencies. I do hope one day that the person or persons responsible for planting these two explosive devices on Capitol grounds will be brought to justice by the FBI. The department thanks the committee for its support, and we greatly appreciate our continued partnership with Congress. I welcome any questions.